Hey everybody, this is Gregory from Dapp University, and in this video I'm going to show you a workflow for deploying smart contracts to a public blockchain, that is a blockchain that's not on your computer, not a test blockchain, but a public blockchain with Truffle without having to run your own Ethereum node, which is pretty nice. And this is a workflow I've been using a lot lately, and one that I haven't really talked about much on my channel, so I figured I would show you all. It's not really new, it's just something I haven't talked about much. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's jump in and start programming. Now, a quick overview of this method that we're going to be using and how it compares to other methods. There's a few different ways you could deploy smart contracts to a public blockchain, actually several ways. The method that I'm going to show you today allows you to do this with Truffle and keep your private keys locally on your machine, but simultaneously you will not have to run your own Ethereum node, which is really nice. So what we're going to do is use something called the Truffle HD Wallet Provider. And this is a package put out by Truffle, which basically allows you to create a wallet locally with a mnemonic seed phrase that's going to store your account information. So just a quick overview, if you're not familiar with the term HD wallet, it's not hardware wallet. It's actually, it stands for hierarchical deterministic wallet. And so basically what that is, you can read about it on Wikipedia here, or sorry, this is a Bitcoin wiki. It basically is a wallet that is generated deterministically or predictably, that's what deterministic means, with a seed phrase. So if you've ever seen a wallet before that, gives you like a 12-character password, like apple, banana, blah, 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 it creates accounts from that password, essentially. And there's a pretty good article that I was just looking at right here, if you're interested. This is a pretty technical explanation of HD wallets if you want to look into this more in depth. So anyways, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to create an HD wallet on our machine with this Truffle HD Wallet Provider. We're basically going to have a seed phrase that's going to generate an account for us, and that's going to allow us to sign transactions locally when we deploy these smart contracts. The other aspect of this is we're not going to have to run our own Ethereum node. So we're going to use something called Infura. So Infura is basically, a service. This Ethereum node is a service where you can basically allow them to run a node for you, so you don't have to, and you can connect to this over RPC, which is also something I've talked about a lot on my channel. So first things first, if you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for Infura and grab your Infura API key. We're going to be using the link, the RPC URL with your API key in this tutorial. Also about HD wallets, MetaMask is an HD wallet. So if you have used MetaMask before, which you probably have if you see my tutorials, you can restore MetaMask from a seed phrase. That's like how that works. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to be kind of live coding this thing, so we'll see how it goes. If I get stuck, I might have to look something up here. All right, so the first thing we want to do is create a new project. Say HD wallet, and then I'll cd into that directory. And the first thing we want to do is create a new Truffle project. We'll do the Truffle init. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and initialize a new Git repository as well. And then we'll do a git ignore file. I'm going to add some new files to this git ignore file so we don't commit like node modules or. All right, and then. All right. All right, so now I've got a Truffle project. Let's go ahead and create a package.json file. Well, let's actually do npm init. I'm just going to go through all this. All right, and then I'm opening this in Sublime Text. So let's see, we got our project here. So Sublime Text is open, and we've got our package.json file, truffle config, truffle.js. All right, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to need some dependencies in order for this project to work. Let me just bump up the font here so you guys can read this. Yeah, a couple different dependencies that we're going to need. We're going to need the Truffle HD wallet provider that I just showed you a minute ago. And then we're also going to need a package that allows us to store environment variables in our project that aren't committed to source. So essentially, like, we're going to need to store some information that you don't want to commit to source. Like, we're going to actually generate a seed phrase for our HD wallet, and I'm going to use a .env file. So, like, if you might have seen my other videos where I've tried to store secrets off screen, it's sort of like in my bash profile with, like, export, some value. That's one way to do it. Another way is use something like a .env file. It's pretty standard for like modern web development practices. So I'll show you that here in a second. But for now, I'm going to basically go over here and copy this package.json file and just paste it in. So basically what this is doing is it is specifies some development dependencies. So .env file is what we're going to use to store our secrets, and then Truffle HD wallet provider is the package I mentioned a minute ago that's basically going to allow us to create an HD wallet that's going to give us a provider where we can deploy our smart contracts with the thing I talked about a second ago. All right, so let's do npm install. And then while that's happening, I'm going to create a .env file. I'll say, it's almost finished. Let's just .env. And then in here, we're going to store a mnemonic. Well, actually, first, let's store Infura API key. That'll be something we'll fill in a moment. And then we'll say, also, we'll say mnemonic. And the mnemonic is what we're going to use to generate our HD wallet. And then the Infura API key is what we're going to use to connect to our Ethereum node. All right, so also in here, in get ignore, I'm going to ignore the .env file. So essentially, this is actually .env. It's the package name. So essentially, like when I commit this, I don't want any of these secrets going to source. All right, status. All right. Let's say, all right. And now what we want to do is actually create a smart contract. So, well, actually, before we do that, we want to configure our Truffle file a little bit. So I'm going to clear out this, say truffle.js. And the first thing I want to do is specify a Solidity compiler. Do this with Sol-C. So basically, this is going to specify how our source code gets compiled, and it's going to specify an optimizer. It's going to be enabled. This is actually really important if you're like deploying your smart contracts to the mainnet, and you want to verify your smart contracts on Etherscan. Like if you wanted to create a token that was verifiable, or any kind of smart contract really where you want to see the source code, this is an important thing to know and to have. And I can maybe make a video on that later about like maybe deploying smart contracts to mainnets. So if you're interested, leave a comment below. All right, so now what we want to do is get a smart contract, and I'm going to do that I'm just going to paste in a pretty simple smart contract. This is similar to a contract I made in another video, where basically I have another video about storing files on IPFS with Ethereum, and so you can check that out if you're interested. But basically that has a simple storage contract where you just read and write a value, and that's the contract that we're going to use today. So I'll say simple storage, sol, all right, just paste this in. So yeah, don't get too hung up in the Solidity code if you don't understand it. It's pretty basic. Basically, it's just a smart contract called simple storage that has this string value. That's a state variable. It's written to the blockchain, and you can set this value and you can get the value. So what we want to do is let's kind of see where we're at. We'll see if we can compile a smart contract. Might have forgotten something, but we'll give this a shot. All right, looks like it compiled. Let's go to our build contracts directory and see the JSON that was created. All right. I'll go to simple storage. Okay. All right. Looks like everything worked. And so what we'll do is see where we're at with our project. All right. I'm going to say add Truffle JS. Specifies solidity piler. All right, and then we'll do contracts. Say creates simple storage contract, and then git add build. Say compiles. All right. All right, so the next thing we need is, if we're going to deploy this smart contract, we need a migration file. So basically, the migration file is what's going to allow us, is going to govern like how this smart contract gets deployed to the blockchain. And, we've got an initial migration already here. So what we want to do is create a new one. And we'll say deploy contracts. All right. And I'm going to basically just simple storage, just require the contract file from the contracts directory. And yeah, you just add it to the deploy manifest, and it's going to get deployed whenever this migration runs. All right, now let's try to deploy that smart contract to a public blockchain. So for now, I'm going to use the Ropsten test network. And we can do that by specifying the networks in our Truffle.js file. Also, if you're a Windows user, you'll be using the truffle-config.js. So I'm going to do networks, Ropsten, and I'm going to specify, we need to specify a provider, which I'll fill out in a second, and then we'll specify gas price for the deployment. I'm going to use, let's just see, I'll just use this value. It's kind of a lot, but that's okay. It's 3, so that's the network ID for Ropsten test network. All right, so now we need to specify a provider. This is essentially what the Truffle HD wallet provider is going to give us. It's going to provide us with a provider. So yeah, the way we initialize a Truffle HD wallet provider is like this. Basically say const HD wallet provider equals require Truffle HD wallet provider. All right. So let's go to the Truffle console really fast so I can show you how this thing works. But before I do that, I actually need to start a local blockchain with Ganache in order to operate the console. So yeah, let's just paste in some configuration for the development blockchain. Or actually, they need to go here. Side networks. And I'm going to comment this out so we don't get any syntax errors. All right, so I'm going to start Ganache with Ganache CLI. So if you don't have Ganache CLI installed, you can just say npm install Ganache CLI, but I've already got it. So let's just do Ganache CLI. All right, so that's running on port 8545, which is what we want here. All right, so let's do Truffle console. All right, so what I want to do is create a new wallet provider. And how I do that is like this, a const wallet. Is this HD wallet provider, we'll say a new one. And we give it a mnemonic, and we give it an RPC endpoint. So like I said earlier, our mnemonic basically is like our password, and this should ideally be like a 12-character, seed phrase. You can make it shorter. I'm just going to say like apple, banana, coffee, and I'm going to give it an empty RPC endpoint. All right, so now we can say wallet and see what that returned. And I believe I can see the account addresses. Okay, yeah, you can see addresses right here. Boom. So this is the address that was generated by default with our HD wallet. So I should say that you should not use this mnemonic at all, because now anyone who uses Apple Banana Coffee will have access to this account. And if you were going to store Ether on it in the, on the main net, they could steal all your money. And just for lots of reasons, you shouldn't do that. And you should also not use a 3-word seed phrase. I would use something like 12. So yeah, that's how this works. Basically, now we have a wallet provider that we can use to deploy our contract to the network. All right, so let's exit out of here. And so now I'm going to show you how to basically set this provider up so that you can deploy it to a public network. And what you want to do is first require your .env file, and this is where we will store our information. So you want to store your Infura API key. So if you haven't grabbed one of those from Infura yet, make sure you do that. Remember, that's just here. You can just sign up and then grab your API key. It'll be the last part of the URL. So for example, if you see an Infura URL that looks like this, you want to take this part, which is your API key, and copy it and then paste it here to your .env API key, and then save this part of the URL for the Robson test network, which is what we will add to our Truffle.js file here momentarily. And then the next thing that you want to do is store your mnemonic phrase. And now this is, like I said, a 12-word phrase, like apple, banana, coffee, guitar. You choose the words and do 12 of them. Also, I would say, like, if you want to use your MetaMask account, you can do that as well. You would just go to MetaMask, and you would go to your settings, and you would basically select your account and then reveal the seed phrase, and you could copy that seed phrase and paste it here if you wanted to. I just caution you, don't do that. If it's an important account with Ether in it, that someone might see this, just be careful. So I'm going to store my mnemonic off screen, and we'll get started. Now that you've got your mnemonic set and your Infura API key set, let's actually create this provider the way that we need to deploy this smart contract to the Robson test network. So yeah, we want to make sure we have our .env requirement here, and this is basically going to attach all the values that were in this .env file to our environment, which we can read with node with process, process.env, which I'll show you in a second. And so basically what we want to do is, I'll just write this out up here line by line, and then you can paste it down so you can see it. So what we want to do basically is say, new HD wallet provider, like I showed you in the console, and we want to pass it that mnemonic, and we want to pass it the RPC URL. So we'll get the mnemonic from our .env file like this, process.env and mnemonic. I think I spelled that right. Mnemonic, yep. And now I'm going to pass it the Infura URL. So what I'm going to do is basically add this on a new line here and say https // Make sure you use the Robson test network, infura.io, and let's say process.env.infura API key. Now, I should also mention, in order for this to work, in order to deploy to the Robson test network, you're going to need some Robson Ether in that address is generated by your HD wallet. So if you already had some, like in a MetaMask wallet, sure, you could use your MetaMask seed phrase to import your account into this HD wallet. You already have some Robson Ether, but if you don't, you're going to need to use the Robson faucet, which I've showed you how to use in several other videos. I won't belabor that right now. But yeah, if you're stuck, either look for those other videos that I show you how to do that, or it's pretty easy to find on Google. So here's our new wallet provider, and we want to basically assign this wallet provider to this provider here on Ropsten. But it's really important, right, that you wrap this in a function. It's very important because basically Truffle, this Truffle.js file, or if you're on Windows, this truffle-config.js file is the entry point for the application. So basically, like if you were ever going to compile, like anytime you would run a Truffle executable, like Truffle compile, or Truffle migrate, or Truffle anything, it's going to basically load this up. And if you didn't basically have this thing wrapped in this Lambda function, it's going to open this connection, and your commands are just going to hang, and you're going to get stuck. So make sure you declare this function first. All right, so say function, wrap this in a function. I'm just going to take this, I'm going to paste it in here. All right. All right, so we got a new HD wallet provider, and this is how we declare this. All right, here. And let's see if it works. Not making any promises. We're going to see if this achieves liftoff together. All right, so now we're going to try to migrate this contract to the Ropsten test network. We specified the gas price, which is pretty high, so this shouldn't take too long, but let's just see if it works. So say truffle migrate -- network. All right, we want to specify the Ropsten test network, not our local network. We'll say Ropsten, and we'll hit enter. Let's see what happens. All right, so I had an error here, and that's because I did not specify return here. All right, so let's try this again, see what happens. I'm going to, all right, it's deploying the migrations file. All right, so I just paused the video, and looks like the contracts were migrated successfully to the network. Yeah, this takes a second, so be patient. And if you have any issues, like if you run into any RPC errors or anything like that, you can always just run this with the reset flag to try again. And this is on Ropsten, so gas price is not super important, so you could always up this gas price if you wanted it to go faster. All right, so we have successfully deployed this smart contract to the Ropsten test network with this Truffle HD wallet provider. So, Truffle tells us that this is successful. Let's actually verify it ourselves. So we'll take this address, and we'll copy this, and we'll go to Etherscan here. And there we go, contract creation. All right, everybody. So that's how you deploy a smart contract to a public blockchain with, Truffle and this Truffle HD wallet provider. So I'm going to do another video right after this where I kind of show you how to interact with that smart contract on the Ropsten test network with your Truffle console and do some other cool things that you will probably enjoy as well. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and check out that next video. It should be the next video that comes out on my channel. So yeah, until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.